All right, so I want to make sure we're recording. So we wanted to talk about this and kind of figure out how we can better ourselves, right? And so some interesting statistics that I came upon, right? Come on, there we go. Uh, is where people are buying things, right? And I don't know whether you're in transition or whether we're entrepreneurs, solopreneurs here, right? We all have products that we are marketing, whether it be ourselves or our actual physical products or services, right? I think it's important that we get the word out there. Nobody wants to go spend $2 billion on a Super Bowl advertisement, right? Uh, that may bring in about 10%, right? 10% of the people that view it. And so I think social selling and social engagement, right, is the wave. And I think we've been seeing this for a long time, right? That people are clicking on things more. They're finding out more information online than they ever have through a 30-second ad that they've seen in between their favorite football team or whatever, right? I mean, so uh, some of the numbers here, right? I mean, 22%, right? Hearing about it directly via tags and DMs. So some of the questions I want to answer or ask you guys today and kind of get some answers on, right, is when you're tagged on a post, right, uh, and you're brought into that conversation from an external a third party source or somebody that you're connected to or whatever, right? Because sometimes if I'm in a group, right, and they tag the group, I automatically get tied into that, whether I'm connected directly with that individual or not. Eh, How, what are the things that cause you to like, and what, more importantly, what are the things that cause you to share, right? What's the intriguing thing about those posts? What do you think it's doing to bring you in to say, man, I need to share this with my network, right? 34%, right? Consumers just on a friend's post. They've Lamar posts something or Jeff posts something and I see it and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And now I want to kind of chase the rabbit a little bit to see where this is going. And I might click on it and do more research on it at that point, right? 34% go online purposely to say, I want to know more about X, Y, or Z. 40%, right? Just organic posts by a brand. I want to talk about if you guys got examples of organic posts from branding that comes to mind, right? That has drawn you in, or knowing it to draw others in. And then 49%, seeing a targeted ad, right? Those it seems like they're almost spam ads that go out, right? That always come across your feed, and I often ask, like, why am I here? Why am I reading this? Like, they're so repetitive sometimes, but that number, I mean, almost 50%, right, of people are uh, at least looking at a product, right, because they've seen a targeted ad on that product, right? And a lot of those targeted ads come from AI. I think that's another topic we're going to talk about at some point down the road. So, it all boils down to the algorithms that are within Facebook and stuff like that. So, in a world of likes and shares, right? I'm going to open up the mics right now. Please open your mics and share. I mean, what do you guys see as critical information, right, to online engagement?
I wish they could have a filter on LinkedIn to get to filter out catfishing. And every time I seem to either post or reply to something regarding the fact that I'm in job transition, I'm getting scammers from all over the world who are saying, we're resume writer experts. Buy our product and service. And when you tell them you're flat broke, they don't get it. So I wish there was a do not solicit option on your profile, on LinkedIn at least.
That would be like ultimate, right?
Yeah.
To not get those. And I mean, first of all, catfishing, and I don't know the official term. Jeff or Greg, you technical folks, do you have an official definition of what catfishing is so we all understand and know?
Well, I can tell you what it is from my aspect. It's single lonely women trying to use it as for social networking and dating app is what I'm seeing on LinkedIn lately, and I'm not the only one. I've read other posts about it too.
Yeah.
So does that
Go
mean
ahead.
that those that don't get catfish should be offended?
That's what Facebook is for. That and all the political BS on LinkedIn, unless it's involving legislation that's going to affect business that doesn't belong. That's a Facebook, or now they call it X, commentary site.
Hey, Bruce, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'm single. Do you know if any of them are rich?
Well, they kind of look like they're Rolex women, if you know what I mean.
Ooh.
In
Okay,
other words, they're
just
looking
checking.
they're looking for somebody that they go. They're the ones that go to the health clubs and try to friend up all the guys with the big fat Rolexes on.
Well, that ain't me. I should go buy one. I'll go buy a fake. I'll buy a
Yeah, there you go.
Photoshopping can be amazing today, okay, Bob? So you don't need to go buy one. Just take a picture with one.
Careful,
Oh, yeah.
I don't Photoshop.
Jeff's got his trophy husband signed packed up there, right? So I don't disagree with that, okay? And there's all kinds of scams out there we all have to be aware of, obviously, when it comes to that. And it's not just on LinkedIn. I think it's on all the platforms. I mean, I'm on Telegram, which is nothing more than a messaging app, right? We use it for our team just to kind of communicate link or Zoom links and stuff like that, right? For the entire team. And I mean, I get more one-on-one solicitation from that, right, than anything. And they're just, they come out with a message, hey, how's it going? Like they know you, right? When they've never even met you or been introduced to you or anything like that. So aside from that, right, I mean, talking about positive stuff that's working, I mean, because folks are utilizing LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, right, to an advantage to be able to market their products and services and create good connections, right? What has drawn you into something that has been posted?
Hey, Rodney, I'll share.
Yeah,
I
I'm
have
gonna-
a connect.
I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah. I have a connection on LinkedIn, and I think she does an amazing job of engaging. And she does that through a couple of things. The first is she posts something every Friday, and she calls it Feel Good Friday, and sort of a recap of the week or excitement for the weekend. And then she does a Monday morning, and it's called Monday Motivation, and something to get you excited for the week. And then she also shares some of her personal stuff. And by personal, I mean things like she and her daughter climbed a mountain together, and she tied that into work-life balance as well as stretching yourself and doing something, that takes you, in an area where you're not familiar. And so I just think she does a fantastic job. And I look forward to seeing her post because it's not just strictly sharing an article, but I think it's very, very engaging. And she's got what I would call a persona, or she's created an image of herself on this, LinkedIn site. And it's one of the best I've ever seen. I think it's just one that I would call out as doing something very well.
I mean, so a couple things that I heard there: consistency, right? A diversity of what you're displaying, not just all product, service, right? It's about me and what I am and who I am, not really all my product, right?
Correct.
Or whatever it is we're pushing, right? Perfect. Anybody else? Go ahead.
She also talked about her authenticity. So
Yes.
I think that's important.
I want to chime in there. I know a guy that does that networking, and he sends out. He doesn't do it via LinkedIn. He does it via constant contact, and he's a consultant. But it's a restricted group. But he makes them interesting. It's exactly what you said, Mandy. It's a slight blend of professional and personal stuff. And I know him somewhat. I've had coffee with him or lunch a few times. So my opinion, that can work. And it may foster the relationships that you want by injecting a little swing, little tinge of the personal stuff in there. And I don't mean that in a mercenary. That's a very nice thing to do. I'm not a big person on mercenary networking where I'm doing it to be nice just for me. That's not my way.
Dan, I'm going to call you out because I mean, I think last year or maybe 2 years ago, right? I mean, you took on kind of this beast, right, of online engagement and how to rebrand yourself and get yourself out there. What do you feel like were some of your most successful attempts? And
Well, I started this business. It'll be 3 years in April, and I joined you at that point. It's interesting because I'm watching this group also uh, um, expand, expand, contract, and I think your consistency is what amazes me because I know that I try really hard for my content on what I'm trying all the platforms. I'm really consistent, I think, in Facebook, Instagram, so. Lamar keeps telling me LinkedIn. So LinkedIn this year, Lamar, I will concentrate on because I'm pivoting on my business as well. But I think you're right. Mandy, I really try hard with what I do to not only just sell, if you will, but to give information and value. And I think when I'm following somebody, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to be sold every single day. I want to hear why you love what you do and what you can do to, to help me and to help the people I care about. So I think somebody else said, Bob, authenticity. That's critical. People do business with people they like and they trust. So the same thing, and I know when I'm being sold, I followed up on a few people last week because I'm trying to get better this year. Because it's interesting, you start working in your business and on your business. I was working in my business a lot and not so much on my business. It's a fine balance, isn't it? And I talked to 5 people after a couple of networking groups, and it was interesting. One of them was really trying to sell me the entire time, and I'm thinking, God, please don't make me like that. So we have to put ourselves out there to receive that, to know what we don't want to give. So that's my hint for the day.
crazy, you said you found yourself working more in your business and on your business, and I think that's a lot of us sometimes, right? And there is a balance that you've got to have. Somebody, I don't know if it was last week here or if it was something else, a podcast I was listening to, right? And they said you should take one day out of every 30 days to do nothing but think. Right? To think about what are some ideas I can implement, to think about what are some things that I haven't hit upon, what are some context that I can represent, right, on my social media posts, but to take one day every 30 days just to think. And so I want to take a minute because we're talking a lot about business, but we've got guys and gals that are in transition in here, right? That I want them to understand, like, this is no different, right? For you that are in transition, if you play the cards right, by the content that you are putting out there, being consistent, diversifying it, right, representing yourself, more people are still, I mean, this goes back to the likes and shares and all that kind of stuff. I understand that, right? But the broader your name gets out there, right, the better things come to play. I'm going to use this as an example, right? Bruce and I connected 4 or 5 months ago, Bruce. Longer than that. Yeah, I mean, something like that, right? But we didn't have a whole lot of conversations. I think he reached out to me because he's seen Coffee Connect and he was wanting to join, and life happens, right? Especially around the holidays, we all got kind of crazy.
I think it was on a Saturday social post, Rod.
On Saturday's social post.
Yeah, I think that's where I first found you a couple months ago when I first started. When somebody said, "Hey, check out the Saturday socials."
Yeah, it may have been that, but and until I seen a post from Bruce last week talking about, listen, I'm taking a poll. I'm looking for these opportunities, right? It just happened to come across my feed, right? And I mean, I obviously responded to that and stuff like that. But more importantly, I reach out to him and say, hey, I got some people I got to get you connected with. I don't know if it's going to lead anywhere, but more importantly, and trying to get him here as well, because I knew we had Paul Turek, who was up in Minneapolis, right? We've had other people that are part of our group here that have had ties in Minneapolis and stuff like that. And Bruce is in Minneapolis, right? And so trying to get him as many of those connections to unravel the journey he's trying to get out there, right? And stuff. So I think it's important. Where do we think, I mean, kind of moving on, right? The second question on that slide was, where do we think people have failed? I think definitely staying away from the spam piece of this, right? That you're just not out there spamming everything that you have. Go ahead.
For me, I let my network lay fallow too long I got comfortable in my last couple positions and really, and in fact, I was at Automate in May, and I networked for my previous company at that point, networked the hell out of them, but not me at that. And that was the one thing I kicked myself for when I lost my job on July 10th. And so for me, like I said, letting that network lay fallow really has been a struggle. And for me, the easiest way I've been able to grow my network again is by having introductions. The cold reaches, even during COVID, you get very few responses from those doing cold reaches. And I think we just lost somebody. But that, for me, the introductions have been the most effective. So I'll let everybody else chat.
Yeah. So I want to talk about loyalty for a second, right? And we've all had jobs. Some of us are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, but we've all had a job at some point, right? How many of you feel like the loyalty between employers and employees is the same as what it was 25 years ago?
Yeah, it's definitely not now.
Right. Okay. So if we all agree with that, right, then I think we should all also agree with the fact that if you're out there networking for your company, as Bruce was just explaining, this is why I'm bringing this up, then it should be okay to talk a little bit about yourself while you're out there, right? And keep your name at the forefront, not just XYZ, right? Because that organization that you're networking with, they may go, man, I don't know what's going on with Bruce or whatever, but I like what he's got to offer and everything else. And dadgummit, if I can get him on my team, that's what should be there, right? Go ahead, Lamar.
I think I would add that instead of talking a lot about yourself, use questions to ask them about themselves, and your questions will tell them how good you are at what you do. If you're there to promote yourself, I do this, that's probably going to turn them off. But if you ask questions like, I'm just curious, how are you guys handling this? How are you guys handling this? How are you guys handling this? And they'll say, wait a minute, he's aware of issues I hadn't even thought about.
Much better point.
And they're going to say, boy, I'd like to have him on my team. And if they know, build a relationship first, coming back to, I think it was Bruce said, know, like, and trust. Build a relationship first and do it through the questions you ask about their world. It's going to be amazing how much. One of my favorite stories is I spent 25 minutes on the rapid talking to someone about his business. And at the end of the train ride, he said, what do you do? And I said, I help people like you. Why don't we have lunch? And he became a client.
Ray, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to speak on what we were talking about prior, as far as the online trust and all of that stuff. So I recently just paid a handsome sum of money to sit down with somebody who built a $50 million online coaching business in 3.5 years. And essentially, he exposed to me what is called the 7-11-4 rule. What that breaks down to is 7 hours somebody has to watch your content. They have to come through 11 touch points at 4 different locations, and it creates trust. And until you've essentially established that, it's almost impossible to gain any sort of trust online to do anything significant, essentially. Which I thought to be really, really interesting, but he's like a numbers guy and he tracked all of this information. It was pretty profound when I got to see the process and everything else. But something else he taught me is that because we have all the catfishing and everything else, online, there's essentially like a trust recession because everyone is essentially trying to get something from you. And it's just natural to come unguarded because most people aren't coming from a genuine place as a whole. So
Yeah.
I guess
Ray,
I said,
could
Go
you
ahead.
share, would you be willing to host a meeting later on and share at least the outline of what you've learned from him?
sure.
No, I'm sorry, I'm a numbers junkie and
We're gonna do
You
a
started
Ray
giving
the
me that.
7-Eleven hour, okay? And figure out what all that means for us. That's perfect.
he's probably holding one of his children right now, but that's okay.
You know, even advertising something like Coffee Connect, guys, right? I mean, and I at least I hope, and if not, please give me feedback when you look at the group on LinkedIn, right? If it doesn't read like something that you want to be a part of, we need to change that, right? I'm not an author, guys, by no means, okay? I mean, I can write some stuff. I'm not saying it's going to appease everybody. So even Coffee Connect, I'll send it, I'll meet somebody, I'll be like, hey, I don't know if you checked this group out or not, man, but this is a great group of people. And we have great conversations, right? And someone will be like, but I don't understand what this is. What do you want? I'm like, well, I don't want nothing, dude. I just want you to be a part of the group. You know, and it's hard because there's so many other things out there that aren't genuine and real and true, right? And so when someone reaches out and says, I just want to help people, right? They're like, yeah, that ain't right. Something's not right with you. I smoke a lot, right? I'm just kidding. uh, so Ray brought up a good point, right? Numbers, and we got to know, like, how do we know what's working, isn't working, everything else, right? And so I want to talk about this a little bit because I've learned some new stuff in doing the research to have this discussion today. Last year, probably right around the same time, I think it was actually Valentine's Day, that Joel Mendenbaum did a presentation on how to find your perfect Valentine on LinkedIn, right? Meaning how to create attraction on LinkedIn is what it was. And in doing so, he introduced some things to us. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here, guys. So this is my profile, okay? In general, I mean, there's been some changes along the way and stuff like that. And I'm always open to feedback and coaching. So if you know something, say something, right? It's okay. I don't take anything personal. I'm trying to move my controls out of the way here real quick. So one of the things that Joel introduced to us is this concept of your social selling index. I'm going to put the link in the chat. And the reason I want to put the link in the chat is because I need everyone who at least has a LinkedIn profile, because I know some of us don't do LinkedIn. Click on that link. That link is going to automatically tie into your LinkedIn profile. Now, a year ago, before Joel had introduced us to this social selling net or index, right? My numbers were not what you see today, right? I'm top 4% of the industry, top 10% of my network. I've got a social selling index of 56 out of 100. I think I was like 34 last year. I had a network social selling index of like 22% or 24% or something. And my industry rank was like 20. First of all, I need you to think of this, those top two scores, right? The industry and the network rank, you got to think of those like golf. The lower they are, the better it is, right? The lower they are, the better it is. And so my objective was to get that to 1% and 5% in 2023. Once Joel had introduced me to this and understand. Now, obviously, you can see now that I didn't reach 1%. I didn't reach 5%. But dadgummit, guys, I'm a lot better than 20, right? Than what I was. And that was just due to some small things that I've done, right? And we've talked about some of those already. Mandy mentioned, the consistency and diversity of the branding, right? And stuff. So I use LinkedIn and Facebook really in two different ways. It's not that I don't share my products on LinkedIn, but I really focus on motivation, leadership, personal development type stuff on LinkedIn and Coffee Connect versus Facebook, where I feel like it's better to talk about financial literacy and insurances and investments and things like that, where people might go, oh, this is more interesting, right? And so I don't know that Facebook or Twitter or anybody else has a program like SSI, like Sales Navigator SSI. This is all free, by the way. But I would submit how we do anything is how we do everything, right? I know Jan said I've been focused on or Facebook, and this year's the year for LinkedIn, right? So if you're doing Facebook the way you were doing it, and you transition that into LinkedIn madness, right? Because it's more of a business network versus the product network. I think you're going to be fantastic, Danny. You're gonna see, multiple increase, right, in the engagement and opportunities you're going to have. Taking this one step further, we've got to understand, what does it mean to establish a professional brand, right? What does it mean to find the right people? What does it mean engage in insights, right? What does it mean to build business relationship, right? What is that taking into account, essentially, right, is what I'm asking, right? And so there are some sites, if you just go, and I'm not going to do this today, right? But if you just Google, tell me how to establish a professional brand on LinkedIn, there are several sites and several articles that will come up that tell you exactly what goes into compiling this 18 point something number, that 18.7, right? That goes into my professional brand. If I go in there, social selling index, find the right people, tell me what that is. It'll do the same. I'm trying to read Bruce just sent a text, a chat here. What's it say? I put post similar to what Rod was referring to on the local community board on Facebook. Got many responses. Level has been tenfold better. There you go. So there is things on Facebook that can do this as well. Is that what you're saying, Bruce?
Yeah, and I never even thought about using Facebook to do my job search, because things are quite critical for my family right now because of my job search. And I'm just throwing everything out there. And the surveys you mentioned, I actually had a network connection through Put Vets to Work group on LinkedIn, say, hey, do this question for the group, and then put this post out there, poll, to kind of draw people in and get their attention and be very targeted and focused, which I've known. I did that. There's something kind of similar to that, but not with a poll on Facebook. And I had, within a half hour, I had over 15 responses. A lot of ones I had already known about. One was for the worst company I've ever worked for, which was my previous employer to the one I just left. And then a few others, as well as my furnace went out this weekend, and I reached out and I immediately was getting responses of, hey, these are the people you can talk to. These are reliable contractors in your area, reliable small businessmen, because I believe in promoting small business versus the giants, that I can. So for me, in that aspect, I got to see the benefit of Facebook, but usually that's just where I keep in touch with friends who live all over the globe, from my military days and even high school. And LinkedIn has always been my professional, but LinkedIn, I haven't gotten the traction I was hoping to have gotten off of the professional networking site. So just what I found. And then also the Lamar mentioned, was talking about the sitting down with the guy about looking at his profile and how to boost himself and whatnot. There's a gentleman I put in a post back here, Bruce Lewin. I sat down with him and did my 4G, and he uses that to help individuals and businesses kind of try to attract the right type of people to their business. And it's something he's experimenting with and trying at the moment. So
Perfect. And so the second thing that I found, right, when I was going through this was this engagement. I don't know what this is called totally. Engagement calculator, engagement rate calculator, right? So in doing the social selling index, I came across a LinkedIn blog that goes through and talks about this a little bit more. And it led me to this engagement rate calculator, right? Which I looked at this and I'm like, oh, that sucks, man. 2.25%, right? That's not a big number, right? So then the question to me becomes, well, what do I need to do to start getting that in a bigger, to a bigger rate, a higher rate, right? Obviously, if you're in the green, that's a good thing. So again, this is something new that I've learned in the last couple of weeks, which also led me to another indicator that was on, I'm trying to look for it here. Oh, this is the website here. So if you go know your score, if you go know your score, right, how to boost your LinkedIn social selling index, right? There's a blog here that goes through, right, what social selling is, how to increase it, why it's important, all that kind of stuff, guys. Right. And I think these are great resources for us to better understand in order to really maximize our efforts that are taking place. In doing so, I said, it also took me to this site called Analytics, which is it's a free extension that's part of LinkedIn, right? And I'll send all these links out in an email, guys, if you're trying to like write all this stuff down and everything else. I'll just send it out in an email when we're done here and capture everything as we can, right? If you don't get it immediately, remember I'm going to a funeral at 11. I'll get it out sometime today to everybody. But Analytics give you this dashboard. Now, the reason all mine are 0 is because it tells you it takes 8 to 12 hours. Mind you, I've been kind of busy with business and trying to do Tim's job as well as my job over the last couple of days. So I logged into this for the first time this morning. I'm really looking to see what tomorrow's going to bring and see what these numbers come back after they've done the 8 to 12 hour search on LinkedIn of all my inputs, right? But I think this is another tool that's going to give you a bigger picture of your efforts, right? So that hopefully we can better understand, what do I need more of, right? What do I need more of? Does that make sense? So I wanted to share that with you just to hopefully give you guys some tools that you weren't aware of. How many of you guys were aware of some of these things? Right. So I think these are some good tools for us to be aware of and utilize in our businesses, in our personal lives, right? To understand what's working for us, what isn't working for us from a social selling or online engagement index, right? Curious, for those of you that were able to click on the link and actually pull up your SSI, right? We're going to do a quick breakout, get a chance to introduce ourselves to a few more people. I want you to talk about, am I still sharing? Just not perfect, right? What are the areas of social selling that you would like to improve, right? And then when we get back together, I want to kind of explore, how can we help each other increase that presence and engagement on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it might be. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. We'll go shuffle up some breakout rooms here. Again, reminder for those folks that are new, when we get back, we're going to have you do 30-second elevator pitches. So everybody knows what you do and who you are. Take some time to introduce yourselves in the room, and then I'll see you guys back here. Let's call it 8 minutes. Dangummit, who closed that meeting out? Who closed that meeting out? So yeah, so what I was saying, Shane, there when I ended is the alignable stuff, right? Love to have a chance to chat with you about that, and kind of I'm on it and I've been on it, but that's another one that I just don't think I've gotten the most out of, and I haven't used it to the best of my abilities, right? And I think there's better use there. So what did you guys
definitely something I can help with.
So what are some areas that you guys feel like, based on where people are wanting to improve or wanting to make improvements on, right, that we can help each other with?